Hi guys, Katie with Katie Dickson Photography here. I'm going to be going through another iPhone app that is actually, instead of an editing app this time, I'm actually going to go through a camera replacement app. So this one has got some more manual controls and different functions that you can use instead of the native iPhone camera app that we use to take pictures. So today I'm going to be going over the ProCam2 app, which is a really great one. It's got tons and tons and tons of functionality. So I'm just going to do a quick walkthrough and kind of go over some of the main functions within the app for you. So I hope you enjoy, and thanks for tuning in. So I'm just opening up my iPhone here and going to my photo and video folder on my phone, and this is an iPhone 5S with iOS 8 running, and I'm going to swipe to find ProCam, and this is ProCam2. So this is what the app looks like when you open it up. Now if you've just downloaded it, just purchased it, and you are adding it to your library, it will ask you for access to use your camera, and I believe it will also ask you for access to your photo stream to save images to your photos, which is actually required in iOS 7 and iOS 8 for apps using the camera and the hardware on the phone. So this is what it looks like when you first open it up, and ProCam is a really robust program. There are tons of things in this app, so I'm just going to go through some of the main ones that I find useful. I'm not going to go through every little thing because that would take forever, and I'm really going to focus on the camera functions today rather than the video functions, because I tend to use the camera functions more than video, but it does have a lot of different video options if you're into exploring that. I'm actually going to set the phone down just for a second, just so that the camera screen goes black, so that we can look a little bit more closely at the interface on the camera. So basically, this is the screen that you get when you are in this app. Along the top, you have got some different options. So in the top left hand corner, you have your flash options, where you can choose. If I just tap on that, you have different options for flash. You can turn it on auto, where the camera will automatically decide when to flash and when not to flash. You can have it on all the time, or as I like to do, have it off by default. And then this next little icon here on the far right hand side is a little flashlight, which basically turns the light on your camera and keeps it on, which is really handy for actually shooting video or taking a picture of something at night and you need to be able to have a light on to kind of focus on it. Along the so then if I click back out of the flash mode, we also have an HDR mode, and you'll notice anything that is yellow is going to be active. So by tapping on that, I've clicked it into yellow to make it active. I'm just going to click that again to turn that feature off. So HDR is high dynamic range. It is basically a way to get more details in the highlights and the shadow section of your images if you're shooting something that's very high contrast. Next to that is a self-timer button, which by tapping on that allows you to add a self-timer to your shutter. And I think by default it's 6 seconds, and it'll give you a little countdown, that wheel there in the center. Next to that is, of course, your little camera flip icon, which allows you to use the front-facing camera for selfies or something like that. I'm not going to click on that, but that's there for you. And then running along the side are kind of all the settings that are currently dialed in. So it's going to tell you what your current ISO and shutter speed is set to, how big of a file is going to be saved when you take the picture, whether or not you've got your flash on or off, how your camera is, I believe that's focusing maybe, your disk space and your battery life are all kind of displayed on the screen there for you. Then along the bottom, so you've got in the center, of course, you've got your shutter button. Now in ProCam2 you can also use just like with your native iPhone camera app, you can use your volume up button to take a picture as well and activate the shutter, which I use all the time. You can also use your volume up button on your Apple earbuds if they are attached to your phone. In the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you have your access to your photo albums. So if you click on that, it opens up your whatever albums you've got on your phone. You click on the camera icon again in the top left, and it takes you back to your ProCam2 screen. Right next to that, you've got this little up arrow, and it's really kind of small and sometimes hard to see. But if you click on that, that opens up your kind of options screen. Along the top here, we've got our grid view options. So the first one on the left is a horizon option. So basically, it will display a level on the screen. So I've activated that, and now using the gyroscope in my camera, it is showing me where the horizon is and when things are level, which is kind of handy to have if you can't shoot a straight picture to save your life like me. So then next to, I'm going to turn that off. Next to that is a golden spiral overview. You've also got a triangle diagonal kind of grid view that you can have as an overlay, and then the rule of thirds overlay, which is typically the one that I prefer, or you can just click them off. Below that row, you've also got different size orientation, like different size formats that you can choose from. So you can do the square, a 4x3, 3x2, which is default, and then of course the 16x9. I'm just going to keep it in the 3x2. Also, right below that, the next row, you've got your options for file size, like how big of an image you want to save. And you can, again, like click through these. I'm going to keep it at full. And then the very bottom row, you can actually swipe to view all of the different shooting modes that you have available to you. So the one default is single shot, which is just a single image mode that is the most basic, allowing you to take a photo directly, similar to the iPhone native camera app. So night mode basically allows you to reduce the shutter speed when taking a picture, which is useful for night photography because it lets more light into the camera, so you can get a little bit of a better exposure in a low light situation. It's also cool to experiment with if you want to show some movement in a photo, so maybe blur somebody running past the camera. Now, when you have it in night mode, to access the different shutter speeds that are available to you, you just click on that arrow again to access the option menu, and you'll see there's another row that's been added right above night mode where you can then choose a 1 second exposure, a half a second, a quarter of a second, or an eighth of a second for your slow shutter speeds in that mode. The next mode available to you is the anti-shake mode, and this will allow the picture to be taken only when the device is not shaking, basically ensuring that your photo is not going to be blurry. And the next shooting mode you have is burst mode, and burst mode basically takes a bunch of photos in rapid succession. So whenever if you push and hold the shutter button, it's going to take several photos. Oh man, I was wrong. So basically, so the native camera app will take photos basically as long as you're holding down the shutter button. In ProCam2, if you click the shutter, it's going to keep taking photos until you click the shutter again. So I just accidentally took 80 something photos of my black tabletop, which is exciting. So I'm going to delete those later. So the next mode that you have access to is interval mode, and it's similar to burst mode in that it will keep taking pictures from the time that you hit the shutter until you hit the shutter button again. But with this mode, what happens is you are allowed to specifically tell the camera how many pictures it takes, well, basically how long the delay is between each picture. So you can take a picture every 5 seconds, or you can take a picture every minute, or you can take a picture every 5 minutes and set your camera up on a tripod and just let it take the pictures for you. So it's really good for doing unmanned things, or if you know you want to put together a time lapse later and you don't want to use the time lapse video mode built in. The next mode that you have available is the sound snap mode, which is actually pretty cool in that you can trigger your camera by snapping or clapping. And so basically you can set your camera up on a table or a tripod or something, and it's going to take pictures anytime it hears a loud voice. In fact, it was just taking pictures because I'm talking pretty loud. So you saw the little countdown pop up on the camera, and I'm not sure if you noticed, but the little camera flash was flashing to indicate the amount of seconds before taking the exposure. The next option that we have is face detection, which is pretty handy. It will basically focus on any face when that is activated. Next up, you've got your big button mode, which I really like. It's very helpful in certain situations where when you have that active, you'll see there is now a red box around the entire screen, which indicates that I can tap anywhere inside that red box to activate the shutter and take a picture, which is pretty helpful if you are kind of precariously trying to take pictures while standing on a chair and you're one-handed holding your camera. Or if you're just trying to take pictures pretty quickly and, making sure that your finger is over that teeny tiny little shutter button at the bottom of the screen is just too much for you. The next option that we've got is the level mode. And in level mode, the ProCam2 uses the gyroscope built into your iPhone to automatically detect and correct the alignment of the viewfinder in real time, which is a little crazy. So you can see it's basically trying to keep this level, and it's only going to take a picture of whatever is inside that bar. So it's going to try and keep things straight for me, which is handy for me because, as I've mentioned earlier, I cannot take a straight picture to save my life, which is crazy for a professional photographer. I don't know what it is. Don't know what it is at all. It's a little bit nuts. So those are all the kind of photo options that you've got. Just a quick run through. If I scroll over, you've got a bunch of different video modes as well. So you've got a time-lapse video mode, a slow-mo video mode, a level video mode, which kind of does the same thing as what I just showed you, where it will automatically use the gyroscope in your phone to try and keep that video level. And then you've just got a regular kind of video mode. So I'm going to go back to single shot mode and kind of stay in there and show you the rest of the options that you've got in this app. So I'm just going to put it back in single shot mode and kind of go through some of the other options available to you with ProCam2. So of course you've got the shutter button there, and then next to that are the live filter options. So live filter options basically will go ahead and put a photo filter over your photo, and it will display it in real time. So I can scroll through these and basically choose which one I like, and have that show as I'm taking pictures. You can also favorite these. So if you figure that there's one that you use a lot, you can set that as a favorite by clicking on the little heart. And then when you click out of that and go back, you can click on your favorites, and it will show up with anything that you've hearted in your little favorites folder, which shows up first. You've also got a couple of different options available to you. There are these locked ones. You have to purchase the ability to use these, as well as, and you can also follow ProCam2 on Instagram, and then you'll have access to the social ones. Again, under the live filter mode, you will also have access to what they call live lenses. So that's this little icon up here that's got the little dot inside of a circle. So in here you'll have access to different kind of live lens modes, and some of these are kind of fun. So I can add a vignette and pinch and zoom to adjust the strength of that vignette with my fingers. There are other vignette options. There's like a little fisheye lens option. There's the tilt shift lens option, and again, I can pinch and zoom, and it's showing a little, it's making it blue so I can see where I'm putting it if I want to kind of blur out the background. It has a macro option, which is basically a round tilt shift kind of effect. Instead of it being, parallel, it's round. The Tiny Planet one, again, it's an additional purchase that you have to do. But it can be kind of cool if you are, into certain things. It's kind of crazy. You've also got like a wormhole kind of thing, which swirls stuff. You have a split, and you can move your camera around to adjust how things are split, which is you can do some interesting things with. The kaleidoscope options are kind of crazy nuts. And these could be, really fun. They create like super fun patterns, which I'm just kind of interested in the pattern, which are kind of neat. So yeah, then you've got ripple effects, and you can, again, kind of like pinch and drag to adjust these. I don't know what I would do with these, but they are there, and you can do crazy stuff with them. Yeah, so those are your, what they call live lenses. I'm going to turn that off because I don't want to see that. And I'm just going to go back to this. So those are your live filters and live lenses. And the next thing I'm going to show you, and again, I'm going to kind of put this down on my table so that we've got a black screen so that you guys can read all this stuff better, because this is where ProCam2 kind of shines, is in the bottom right hand corner. You've got this little set option, and it's all the settings that are available to you in this app. There are tabs along the top which give you different options for different things. So under the photo tab, these are all the different custom settings that you can dial in to ProCam2. You've got an orientation lock, so when you rotate your camera, it won't automatically kind of flip the screen. You've got manual focus peaking, and focus peaking is actually pretty cool. I'm going to turn that on and show you a little demo of that. So focus peaking, so if I come in here and I want to adjust the focus, if I come in here to manually adjust the focus, do you see how it's added this kind of like kind of gritty, grungy outline to the image? And when I let go, that effect goes away. That is your focus peaking assist. So it helps you to see when the edges get crisp. I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to turn that back off. And some of the other options that you have got are persistent manual controls. So if you always want to have the ability to adjust your manual controls, you can turn this on. So no matter when you're in ProCam2, it's always going to default to you putting in the settings. Face auto snap, it'll automatically go to the faces. Geotagging, it'll automatically add location data into your images. Date, you can add all these different kinds of stamp overlays to your photos, where it will automatically add the date to the bottom, or a copyright, or a location stamp where it'll put a little printout overlay over the image of where that photo was taken. And you can change the colors of the stamps, you can change the size of the stamps, you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. You can display that little status bar on the side, or not. I think that's what that one does. Yeah, see, it moved the little bar along the side to the top by just flipping that on and off. So I'm going to go back and put the status bar back where it was, because I kind of liked it over there. Timeout, basically, if that is on, it's going to prevent your camera and your phone from going to sleep while you're messing around in ProCam2. You can also adjust the format of the file, so you can save your images into TIFF or JPEG. TIFF is just a much bigger file. It preserves a lot of the data in the images. If you don't already know, JPEG files are they're lossy files, so some of the image data that is captured is thrown away and compressed when images are converted into a JPEG. A TIFF file is a lossless file, which means that it's bigger, but you also have a lot more data to work with in editing, which is handy. This next option here, let me go back to the black screen so it's easier to see. The sensitivity option here, that's for the anti-shake mode. So you can adjust how sensitive the gyroscopes and the sensors are in your phone for using the anti-shake mode. You also have the option to increase or decrease your self-timer. You've got your interval options where you can decide if you're using interval mode, how often ProCam2 will take a picture. So every 30 seconds, every 1 minute, whatever you want to put in there. You've got your night mode timer, the sound snap timer. So whenever you're clapping to activate the shutter, you can increase or decrease that. You've got your burst timer, and you can either, when you're using one of these timer modes, you can either have the flash on your camera flash to tell you to kind of count down for you as a visual reference. You can turn that on or off. And then of course you've got a billion very similar video modes for formatting and interval stuff and size options, and then of course the different stamps. Now the info mode is, this will allow you to access the user guide. You can make comments about the app or suggestions, and then of course you can do the rating and find out more about the company. And then the LNG is just language, in case, I don't know, you speak Italian and you want to have the app display in Italian, which I don't know why you would, but there's the option. All right, so now that we've kind of gone through all of the buttons and everything like that, I'm just going to show you really quickly just kind of basic use of the app and what you can kind of do with it. So I'm going to come back over here to my Polaroid camera, and I actually have a live filter activated, so it's making this a little bit brighter and a little bit more colorful, and I kind of like it, so I'm going to keep it there. And so basically, just like with the iPhone native kind of camera app, if you tap anywhere on the screen, it's going to focus and expose for that point. And you can see that I've got a little blue box around a yellow circle. Now if I tap on that and then move, it's going to separate these. So the blue square is your focus, and your yellow circle is your exposure. So underneath this, anywhere I drag this yellow square, it's going to expose for that area. So if I drag it to a darker spot, it's going to try and brighten the image. And if I drag it down to a lighter spot, it's going to darken down the image to expose for that particular place. Now you'll notice that underneath this yellow circle, I have got, now you'll notice underneath the yellow circle, I've got this little plus minus icon. Now if I click and drag this back and forth, it is going to automatically adjust the exposure plus and minus. Another option that I have with this, if I click the little lock in the center, it then gives me two other options below where I can adjust the ISO, which is going to adjust the brightness, and I can adjust the shutter speed, which will also adjust the brightness. So let's say I want a fast shutter speed so I'm not going to get camera shake, then I can adjust the ISO to compensate for a faster shutter speed. But as you can see, I'm also getting a little bit more grain if I'm using a higher ISO. Now, similarly, with this focus here, so say I want to focus here on this Polaroid thing. If I click the lock button in the center here, it'll give me this little square, and this square is a manual focus. So if I slide back and forth on that, I can adjust the focus of this manually, which I don't know that I want to do. I mean, I think the iPhone does a pretty good job focusing by itself. But in case you wanted to have a manual focus option, you've got it. So basically, if you're clicking and all of these things are together, you're in auto shoot mode. If you click and press and hold and drag to separate these, you are now in kind of manual mode, so to speak. And you then get this little white balance option up at the top. So if I click on this, I now have the option to, by clicking and dragging, going through and scrolling through the different white balance options. So it's going to make it cooler or warmer. So if I want things to be a little bit more on the cool side, I can do that. Or if I want things to be like really, really warm, I can do that too. And just by taking the image here, it will take that photo. And to access any photos that you're taking, you just click on that button and you'll see them down in the camera roll. Like, look at all these that I took in the burst mode. That's going to be fun to delete later. So yeah, so that is your ProCam2 in a nutshell. So that's a brief overview of ProCam2 and the functionalities available to you in this app. It is a really great, very robust camera replacement app for the iPhone, and I really enjoy using it when I want a little bit more manual control. Now, typically the way I have been using photography on my iPhone, so mobile photography, I do tend to use the Apple's native camera app more often, but this is just because I do a little bit more of my custom work on the back end. So I will use the native camera app to just take the picture really quickly, knowing that I'm going to do a lot of these adjustments in post. Now, if you're the type of person who really likes to experiment with the capture itself, then I would suggest ProCam app, especially if you're into video or doing time lapse, or you want to have access to some of these different shooting modes, which are really handy. I mean, the face detection mode is really great, and any of the interval modes or anything like that are very, very handy. And I love just being able to adjust the white balance, because I find that sometimes the iPhone camera can't really make those adjustments sometimes very well on its own. It can be fooled very easily. And when you are recording an image in a JPEG format, it is much harder to kind of fix those types of things in post. So it's definitely a good one to have in your arsenal. And the makers of ProCam2 actually came out with another camera replacement app called Shoot, which I'm also going to do a quick review of, which is basically ProCam, but like ProCam Lite. It's very, very stripped down version of this app, and it's also really nice. So I'll do a quick review of that as well. But I hope you enjoyed this, and if you found it useful or informative, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from me, be sure to subscribe to this channel, as I'll be posting more reviews and things coming up. I do apologize for my brief absence from YouTube and from posting videos. As you know, I'm a full-time photographer, and spring gets to be a little crazy with weddings and family sessions and teaching. So my plate has been a little full, but I promise to kind of get back into the swing of things and start posting some more stuff for you guys soon. So if there are any apps that you guys have really been loving lately, or any apps that you want to see me review, please leave them in the comments below, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about ProCam2. And I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.